Hi guys, welcome to Class's Corner. I'm Kat, and this week I'm going to be talking about a very special topic, or at least a very special topic to me, which is the ancient Greek novel. Now, the ancient Greek novel is a relatively unappreciated, in my opinion, aspect of classics. It's not studied as much. They're not studied as much as, say, the Attic dramas or the Homeric poems or Augustan poetry or war texts like Herodotus or Thucydides or historiographical biographies like Livy, or philosophies like Plato. They're not exactly part of the classical canon of texts that people tend to study when they're studying classics in university or higher. So again, they're relatively unstudied, which is such a shame. So before I get into why they are so awesome, I'm going to talk about what the novels actually are. And starting off is that they're only really called novels. The ancient Greek novels are only really called novels because modern scholars have decided to call them that. Novel is not an ancient genre like tragedy is. Tragedy is what people called tragedy back when tragedy was being written, but the novels, we don't really have an ancient genre that goes with them, so modern scholars have dubbed them novels. Why they've been called novels is because they tend to resemble what we think as modern novels, in that they are lengthy prose fiction. They're not poetry, they are completely prose, and they are fictional. Prose fiction. So they were written about the 1st to 2nd century AD. We can't exactly specify when. Some may have been even written as late as the early 3rd century AD. They don't have a standard format in terms of how long they actually are. Like, say, traditional epics tend to be between 12 books in the case of Virgil's Aeneid, and then 24 in the case of Homer's Iliad and Odyssey. But while the novels don't have that, there's seemingly no specific number of books that the novel genre tended to be, or length they tended to be. All of them are written in some sort of either the fictional past or a fictional timeless period. They're not modern to when they were written, as far as we know, which is why it's somewhat difficult to actually date them as texts, because they don't seem to have any modern to the 1st, 2nd, or potentially 3rd century AD aspects, especially when it comes to they were written in Greek, but they were part of the Roman Empire, if you know what I mean. Greece was under Roman control at these times, so we don't know when they were written because they don't seem to have any aspects of that modern Roman Greek time. Or even aspects like the rise of Christianity happened in those periods, while the novels don't have any seeming references to that. Also, what is quite fun is that while they were written in the 1st and 2nd century, maybe 3rd century AD, they were written in Attic Greek. The type of Greek that was very popular in the 5th, 4th and 3rd century BC. So, you know, the type of Greek that Plato wrote in, that Thucydides wrote in, that the ancient Athenian tragedies were written in. So and there's probably a fun reason for that, and I'll get to that in a bit. So they were written in a very old style of Greek for the time they were written in the AD. They're all very interesting. They all take a lot of fun. And again, why they were potentially written in this old style of ancient Greek was that the people who wrote them, which again, people we don't know a lot about, probably wanted to seem very educated, seem very clever, wanted to put these novels in the realm of classical literature, and they play around lots of ancient literature. I mean, last week I did a video on intertextuality and why it's so important to read a lot of stuff if you're going to read classics, and the ancient novels are a perfect example of that. To read and understand these novels, you need to read a lot of other things because they reference them a lot, which is really interesting. It is a classical journey going through these novels, even just picking up a few of the references that the authors are alluding to, or the narrators are alluding to. Yes, they are all narrative texts, which is very fun for someone who studied ancient narrative literature. That's probably why I studied them quite a lot in university. My department in Swansea University absolutely loved the ancient novels, and if you ever want to study them, that's the place to go in the UK. Absolutely fantastic. And what's quite sad but also quite fun is that there are only 5 extant ancient Greek novels that we know of. The extant means that existing in full, so beginning, middle and end, we have the whole text. And there are other examples of novels that are fragmentary, but again we only have, which are fantastic, and you should go check out the fragment stories as well, but we only have 5 fully existing texts. Now those texts are Achilles by Charaton, Achilles Tatius' Leucippus Cleitophon, Longus' Deafness and Chloe, Xenophon's Ephesian Tale, and Heliodorus' Ethiopica, or the Ethiopian Tale. So those are the 5 that we have all together, and they are fantastic. Other fragments include Lucian's True Story, which I absolutely encourage you to read, and Pseudo Lucian's The Ass, which is a really fun story. Most of them have been studied by a particular few people, and if you're going to go read them, which I recommend you do, you can find all of them in the Collected Ancient Greek Novels by B.P. Reardon, and this is the text I use primarily in university, and it is absolutely fantastic. It also has a foreword by someone I studied under, Dr. John Morgan, and he is a preeminent figure in the study of the ancient novels. So go check out this book, go check out that stuff, it's amazing. Now, on to why the ancient novels are fantastic. Again, like I said, reading them is like going on a journey through classics, just because of the pure amount of references they have in there. They breathe ancient studies. There's so much in them, and they are such complex texts, but they're also very fun. All the extant novels are what we would consider romances. They are all boy meets girl, girl meets boy, chaos and adventures ensue romances, which actually is lots of people seem to be put off by, no, I say lots of people don't actually know about the novels, but some people are put off studying the novels because they are romances, and actually for a long time they were in the snobbery that is classics occasionally, which I will do a video on that unfortunate aspect of the subject, that they were considered women's reading, and because they were romances and not worth studying, they were kind of thought of as ancient fluff pieces, a bit like Mills and Boons. But now they are getting a bit more attention properly academically because of how in-depth and actually how complex they are in terms of classical aspects. They are fantastic narratives. They are really interesting narrative structures to do it. They are really interesting narrative structurally, because the use of narrators and the use of how the stories are put together are amazing, because they can be really complicated and a bit mind-bending of actually what's going on. But they're just so interesting to read. They're all also mad. They are mad stories. Even if you go to the boy meets girl, nearly all of them involve pirates or wars and ghosts and being sold off as slaves, coming back as slaves. The characters are nearly always trying to kill themselves over something, which is just like, if you want to ever study anything on relationships or the kind of weird influence of the gods or weird pirates in ancient literature, the novels are the place to look, because they're dense and they're weird. Like, they are all just fantastically crazy. So Charaton's the oldest one, Achilles, and that's a really interesting study on the idea of, that's the one set in the ancient past. It's set after the Sicilian expedition during the Peloponnesian War, so it has some historical characters running around, and that one's weird. That one involves pirates and grave robbers and being buried alive for a bit and subterfuge over marriages, and that's fun. So that's a really cool one to do. Achilles Tatius is also fun, because that's sort of sort of the idea of people telling a story after it's happened. So it's like, oh, you find out like how this guy got into the situation that he got into, and again that involves pirates and raiders and a war in Egypt, and it's just fascinating. It's just really cool. Also lots of peacock imagery, which I love. Don't know why. I'll make a video on why peacocks are a thing for me one day. Then you have Deafness and Chloe, which is like a pastoral tale, and that one's just really funny because you sort of have this of like yeah, there's a ballet based on Deafness and Chloe, which is really fun. So you have the story of innocence and a coming of age story, and it's again set in this weird timeless setting. The Ephesian Hell is unfortunately the one I've probably read the least, which is a shame because it's a really fascinating story, but it also has pirates and raiders and like a false sacrifice type thing, and it's just weird. Ghost, that one has ghosts. And then the Ethiopian Tale is just mad. It is just mad. Like, it's a story within a story within a story within a story, and again there's wars and there's potential for human sacrifice, but stuff happens, and they're just amazing stories, and the romances are funny and they're so deep classically, and I would absolutely recommend anyone reading them, especially if you're interested in any type of ancient literature, because they're the type of stories that will make you go read more stories, which is great to understand them further. And they're great when you look at how women are depicted in things. You know, even if they don't mention the Romans, it's still interesting to see them for how Greek people may have existed under the Roman rule. Even if they don't mention the Romans, there are still, and they are written in this old style of Greek, they're still products of the 1st and 2nd century AD. So if you look at texts around them, it's still really interesting. So yeah, those are my perspective on the ancient Greek novels. Go read them, go studying. Again, go check out Reardon. He's great. If you can get your hands on this book. And I will see you next week with another video. Okay, bye guys.